Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel Excel for a Fire Police. So project description is instructional project for a pivot table and pivot chart. So if you want to complete MylTLab courses is Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint and Microsoft Access. We can do online courses is accounting, math, stat, finance, economics, writing and other courses. So I will guarantee yours 90 and 95 plus grades your assignments. So we move to the instruction files. So go to the course material and find the instructions, and we move to the main projects tab. So step number one is navigate to your Excel chapter 4 folder and then double click the Excel file you download from the MyLab IT that displays your name student Excel for a fireplace. This work display 3 months of a cell that must be summarized to the pivot table. There are two classification of fire department cells or three classification for a police department. So go to the Excel worksheets. I have already downloaded the Excel file. Next is question number 2. So question number 2 is click a cell A2 on the insert tab in the table group. Click the recommended pivot tables. Compare your screen with the figures. So go to the 4.2 figures and click the cell A2. So go to the Excel worksheet and select the cell is A2, A2, and on the insert tab in the table group, click the recommended pivot tables. Insert tab and go to the table group. Go to the insert tab and table groups. Click the recommended pivot tables and recommended pivot tables. Next is in the recommended pivot tables dialog box, scroll down, point to each the preview, display the screen tip, and then click the fifth pivot table, sum of number by location. Compare your screen on the figure 4.3. So select the sum of number by location. Sum of number by location. Click the sum of number by location and month and sum of number by location. Choose the sum of number by location, sum of number by location and click OK. And next is question number 2 is complete and click OK. Next is Excel adds new sheet 1 to the workbook on the left side of the new worksheets and Excel generate to the pivot reports. So generate the sheet 1 and next is on the pivot table analyze in the pivot table group click the pivot table name box to select the pivot table name, type PT1 and then press enter to change the pivot table name. On the pivot table name analyze, go to the pivot table analyze tabs and pivot table group, click the pivot table name and type the PT1 and then press enter and change the pivot table name. So go to the pivot table groups and click the name and type the PT1 and press enter. So the change the pivot table name is PT1. Next is remaining a pivot table is a useful when our worksheets contain many pivot tables. For a purpose of this instruction, the pivot table in this project and will be named to the sectionally and save your workbook and then take the movements study figure to the 4.5 and the table to the so check the 4.5 and click the save and 10 1250 10 1250. So match the figures, match the value in the figure. And next is question number 1. To the right of the worksheets in the pivot table field pane in the field section, notice the fire police checkbox or selected it and Excel placed to the field to the row area section. In the area section, in the row area, point to the fire police, hold down and left mouse button and then drag the field to the upward into the filter area. So to the right of the worksheets, right of the worksheet, and pivot table field pane in the field section. Notice the fire police checkbox are selected it. Fire police checkbox are selected it. And Excel place field in the row area. Place field in the row area. And next is row area. In the area section, row area, point to the fire police, hold down left mouse button, drag to the field name upward to the filter area. The row area in the point to the fire police, hold down left mouse button and drag the field name upward to into the filter area. So select the fire and police, move and drag the filter area. Drag the filter area. Next is you can filter the reports based on the fire police field by the moving this field to the filter area. When you filter the reports, you limit the display of the data to only specific information. As you drag the small attaches mouse pointer and indicates. So move to the question 2 is in the pivot table field pane in the field section, verify that the location field checkbox is selected. So location fields is selected. In the area section, the non-numeric location field display in the row area, the location name and station display row in the pivot table reports. There are 6 police departments and 4 fire department station. Next is question number 3 is in the pivot table field pane in the field section and select the classification field to the checkbox so display the row area field section and select the classification field to the row area. So classification field to the row area. Classification field to the row area. If the classification field display the another area, drag from the row area in the pivot table, right clicks and station to the expand or collapse and click the expand entire field. Pivot tables, right click and pivot tables. So the expand and click the expand entire field. Select the expand entire field. So select the 4.6 and classification to the row area, location and classification. Location and classification and expand to the entire field. So collapse and expand to the entire field. You right click and expand to the entire field. So next is in the pivot table field, in the field section, point to the month field, display the pointer and drag the month field down to the column area and verify that sum of number display the value area. Pivot table field pane, the pivot table field pane, month field to the display and month field to the column area. Select the month field to the column area. Move and drag the column area. Month field is the column area and verify that sum of number display the value area. Sum of number display the value area. Next is so match the figure is grand total and March and February. Next is question number 5 is on the design tab in the pivot table style group click the more and then under the medium in the second row click the fourth style. Go to the design tabs. In the pivot table style group click the more and then click the medium in the second row click the fourth style. Second row fourth style. Second row in the fourth style. So match the value and match the color. Table color match the color and click a cell B5 pointer to the selected cell and then notice the screen tips that display. So like the cell is B5 and close the pivot table field pane and save your workbook. Close the pivot table field pane and save your workbook. Move to the next step. Next step is on the pivot table analyze in the filter group click the slicer. So insert the slicer. Go to the filter groups pivot table and go to the insert tab and go to the filter group click the slicer and insert the slicer and select the fire please checkbox and then click OK. Select the fire please and then click OK. Fire please checkbox and click OK. Point to the upper border of the fire please slicer to display the pointer and then drag the slicer up to align with the top of the pivot table row 3 and if necessary to the right of blocking view of the pivot table. Compare your screen with the figure 4.11. With the fire police border, move and drag the slicer to the row 3. Move the slicer to the row. Move and drag the slicer row 3. Slicer, move and drag the slicer in G3 and a slicer include the slicer header indicate category of the slicer item, filtering button, or to select the filter multi-select the button to the clear button and when a filtering selected including the filter the multi select button to enable multiple filtering and click the clear the filter and on the slicer tab on the slicer tabs and in the slicer style group click the more and under the dark second slicer style. So select the slicer and go to the slicer tab, click the slicer style group, click the more and dark. Under the dark, click second slicer style. Click the dark under the dark and click the second slicer styles. Next is in the pivot table, report the notice that the police departments display the first on the fire police slicer. Click the fire filtering button, move your pointer out of the slicer and compare your screen. On the fire police slicer and click the fire filtering button, pointer out of the slicer, click the fire button, click the fire button and click any in the pivot table. On the pivot table analyze tab, in the filtering group, click the insert a slicer. In the insert a slicer dialog box, select the classification checkbox and then click OK. On the pivot table analyze tab and filtering group, click the insert the slicer and insert the slicer and select the classification checkbox. So go to the insert tab and filtering group, click the slicer, select the slicer and select the classification and click OK. Filtering group, click the insert the slicer and insert the slicer dialog box and select the classification checkbox and then click OK. Go to the pivot table analyze and filtering group, click the insert the slicer, filtering group and click the insert the slicer and select the classification checkbox and then click OK. Click the classification checkbox and click OK. Next is drag the classification slicer fire police slicer O3. Notice the classification associate the police department, depth, cell and measures, crime, traffic. Move and drag the classification slicer. Select the cell is J3. Next is point to the sheet 1 sheet tab and right click and then on the shortcut menu click the more move or copy in the move or copy dialog box at the lower left and select the create a copy and checkbox. Select the sheet 1, select the sheet 1 and right click then shortcut menu and click on move or a copy. Right click and click the move or a copy and click the create a copy. Click the create a copy checkbox and then click OK and double click the sheet 1 to type the slicer and then press enter and click OK. Sheet tab and type the slicer. Right click and click the rename slicer and press enter. Next is click the anywhere in the pivot table and then click the pivot table analyze. In the pivot table group, click the pivot table name box and select the PT1. Type the PT2 in the press enter and name of the pivot table on the sheet. Click the pivot table analyze and click the pivot table group, click the PT2. Go to the pivot table analyze and click the PT2 and press enter and save your workbook. Click the save your workbook and display the sheet 1 in the classification slicer. Click the fire all others cell filtering button and then compare your screen on the figure 4.70. Click the pivot table and pivot table analyze groups. Display the sheet 1. Select the sheet 1 and in the classification slicer click the fire all other cells. The fire all other cells filtering the classification button, and in the classification slicer click the clear the filter. In the fire police click the clear the filter. Clear the filter fire police and click the classification. Clear the filter. Next is point to the fire police slicer header and then right click on the shortcut menu. Click the remove fire police. By using the same technique, remove the classification slicer. Select the fire police slicer. Fire police slicer, right click and click the remove the fire police slicer. And next is by using the technique to the remove the classification slicer. Right click and click the remove the classification slicer. Click a cell A1 to select the pivot table and then on the pivot table analyze in the show group click the field list to display the pivot table field pane in the field section by the location to location, and then to the right click to the location arrow on the display menu search box to type the station 3 and then compare your screen to the figure 4.18 and click the cell A1 and on the pivot table analyze tab click the show group. Go to the pivot table analyze and go to the show groups. Click the field list and in the field list section point to the location and click the location arrow and search box and type the station 3. Select the location and type the station 3 and press enter. Click OK. With the A1 is still active, to the pivot table and action group click the clear and then clear the filter. Select the cell as A1 and sum of number pivot table. In the action group go to the pivot table analyze and go to the action group and click the clear the filter. Action group and clear the filter and clear the filter from the location and save your workbook and go to the save your workbook. Next is move to the next question. With the sheet 1 worksheet active in the area section of the pivot table field pane, from the column area drag to the month field name upward into the field section, attaches to the pointer, drag release the mouse button. Select the cell sheet 1 area section pivot table pane and column area, drag to the month field to the column area in the name field section to the XY column to the location and classification. So checkbox the month field, column area and month field name upward. And next is in the area section of the pivot table field pane, from the row area drag to the classification in the column into the column area and row area drag the classification, row area drag the classification to the column area. Classification to the column area. Column area. Navigation to the column area. And close the pivot table field pane and click the B4 in the column title dispatch. And close the pivot table field list. Close the pivot table list field list and click the cell B4. The cell is B4 and column title to the dash cell, right clicks and display the move and click the cell dash cell, right clicks and click the move to the on the dash cell down. Dash cell is down and click the cell C4, column title to the dash cell, display move to the dash cell to the down and move or one or more to the column right. Select the cell is C4 and go to the depth cell to the down. Again right click and click the move, go to the move and click the depth cell, move to the depth cell down to the depth cell and save your workbook. So compare the figures. And next is click the cell E15 and click the cell E15 and major crime classification and point selected it. Right click and click the show detail. Right click cell E15 and click the show detail. Right click and click the show detail. To the Excel worksheet and match the worksheets and rename the sheet tab is to the major crime and the save your workbook. So copy the major crime and right click in the rename the sheet 3. Right click and click the rename and major crime, press enter and save your workbook in the save your workbook. Click the sheet 1 tab and then rename the its combined cells pivot tables. Click the cell A1 to the select the pivot table reports and go to the sheet 1 tabs and rename the worksheet is to the combined cell pivot table. Copy the pivot table, right click and click the rename pivot table name is to the combined cell pivot table, press enter. Click the cell A1 to select the pivot table reports. On the pivot table analyze tab in the pivot table group, click the option arrow and then click the show report filtered pages. Click OK. Go to the cell A1 and pivot table reports on the pivot table analyze tab. Go to the pivot table analyze tab and next is in the pivot table group, click the option arrow and then click the show reports filtered pages and click OK. Go to the pivot tables and click the option and show reports filter pages and click OK and then click OK. So question number 3 is click police sheet tabs on the pivot table analyze tab In the pivot table groups and click the pivot table name box, select the current name is to the type the PT3 and then press enter. Go to the policy tab on the pivot table analysis groups and click pivot table name box and select the current name is to the PT3. Select the current name is to the PT3 and press enter. Next is the data of the police department's cell display on the separate sheets. The data remain of the pivot table. You can move the field for row position to the column position and vice area. Click the fire sheet tabs. Go to the fire sheet tab. In the pivot table group, click the pivot table name box and select the current name is to the PT4 and then press enter. Select the PT4 and press enter. Enter. And save your workbook. Just save your workbook. Save your PT4, save your workbook and display the combined cell pivot table worksheets. Combined cell pivot table worksheets and point to any cell containing numerical data. Right clicks and click the value field setting and click the summarizing value. Click the average. Right clicks and click the value field setting dialog box and click the average and then click OK. Right click any numeric value and then shortcut menu click the value field setting and click the number format. Right clicks and go to the value field settings and click the number format and under the category and click the number. Change the decimal box to 0 and select the 1000 spectra and check box and click OK 2 times and board the dialog box and click cell A1 the 0 decimal. Use the 1000 and click OK and again OK and again OK and save your workbook. So if you want to complete assignments or exam, you can contact on my WhatsApp link and email. I will guarantee you are 90 and 95 plus grades. If you want to complete MylTLab courses, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint and Microsoft Access.